All right. So welcome, everyone. I do thank you again for taking time out of your schedule to join us this afternoon. We're going to kick off with a little bit of a video. Before we start off with the presentation, I do want to go over some house rules. One, feel free to ask any questions throughout our conversation. This is an educational experience, so we want to be sure that we're keeping tabs with things that we're sharing that you may have questions on or comments. So please take full advantage of the Q&A box on your Zoom feature. I will be monitoring that throughout our conversation. We do have some interactive activities like poll questions. Just throwing it out there. We have a pop quiz for you. Never thought you'd have a pop quiz past school, but
get ready.
Today, so it's
get
going
ready.
to be exciting. I'm very excited. And we do have calls to action, right? Every time that we do these activities or these experiences, we want to be sure that we provide you something that you can take and apply into your life. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and start off with our video, and then we're going to get into the information.
It's kind of blurry. That's better. Question: what kind of bear is best?
That's a ridiculous question.
False. Black bear.
Well, that's debatable. There are basically two schools of thought.
Fact: bears eat beets.
Oh.
Bears beets Battlestar Galactica.
Bears do not. What is going on? What are you doing?
Last week, I was in a drugstore and I saw these glasses, $4. And it only cost me $7 to recreate the rest of the ensemble, and that's a grand total of $11.
You know what? Imitation is the most sincere form of flattery, so I thank you. Identity theft is not a joke, Jim. Millions of families suffer every year. Michael! Oh, that's funny. Michael!
Oh, man. So the spirit of the topic of the night, Marcus thought it'd be great to share that topic, or that video. So thanks for sharing that, Marcus.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for honestly allowing me to share that. I was so excited when we had the idea to share that clip because it was a perfect segue for the topic. One of my favorite rappers used to say, all good jokes contain true statements. I didn't quite say it that way, but as you can see, identity theft indeed is not a joke. Because to the point that we've been in this webinar, 2 seconds is all it takes for someone to become a victim of identity theft. So if you're looking at per minute, that's 30 people per minute. So to this point, 150 individuals have now become a victim of identity theft. And when you look at the some that have occurred in the past few years, whether it was the Marriott with their exposing of data that has impacted 500 million different people. There was an Equifax data breach that I think many of us will remember that has impacted 143 million. And to date, the largest exposure was the Yahoo account being compromised, which has impacted 3 billion individuals. So to this point, for many of you who are joining us today, you may have already been victim or exposed to some type of data breach. And today we want to empower you or provide some different tools and keys of protecting your privacy and your personal data. So what's going on in today's time, right? So we're experiencing a lot of threats. Some threats that have always been there, like viruses and things of that nature. But in today's time, as technology advances, as we have more access and more convenience through many different tools, data security and privacy is starting to become more of an issue. So one of the ways that we can assist is through bridging the gap, through encouraging cybersecurity knowledge, or covering the knowledge gap. So the reason we're here today is to share a few different ideas. We're going to break this up into 3 different parts. Part 1 is going to be discovering your cybersecurity score. That's part of that interactive pop quiz that we're going to be sharing with you. The objective is to not make you feel bad, because trust me, I did not personally score high. on the quiz when I first took it. But there is a quiz that you'll be able to take simple yes, no, and identify your score for cybersecurity. Following that, we're going to have a part 2 where we're going to be sharing different ideas of different cybersecurity rules, the ways that you can protect your privacy and security. And as always, we're going to leave you with some type of call to action. So the topic of today, 30 minutes of savvy cybersecurity. If this is your first time joining this experience, to introduce myself, my name is Marcus Rather. My business partner here, Emmett Corboy, we're both financial advisors here, stationed in Glen Allen or Richmond, Virginia. Best advisors on this side of Mississippi, just gonna throw that out there. But we pride ourselves in being holistic and making sure that not only we are working with our clients to achieve their goals, but to give them impactful things that they can use throughout their life as well. So part 1, discovering your cybersecurity score. On your screen in a brief moment, what you should see pop up are going to be a series of poll questions. What I want you to do is answer yes or no to each of these questions. At the end of it, if you can either take note or just remember how many yeses you had, I want you to give yourself 5 points for each yes. And I want, from the conclusion of that, to determine your rating of your savvy cybersecurity. So in one moment, you should see polls. Don't worry, these are anonymous, but you should see 10 questions coming up. Please take some time to just answer yes or no.
I'll be the first to say we've all got something to learn. After going through this topic, this quiz, the questions, getting my score, it's not something I'm too proud to share, but got about 50-50. I would have to retake this class if that was the case, if this was high school.
Yeah, safe to say. So thank you for those who are participating. We're just going to give another about 30, 45 seconds to just allow everyone to submit their answers. This is absolutely an eye-opening quiz, to say the least. I know after my first 3 or 4 no's, I started getting nervous. Because after you get to about 4 incorrect out of 10, you already know what type of score you're going to get. So just about 15 more seconds, then we'll end the poll. So I won't share the results of the poll at this immediate moment. Maybe that's something that we can share at the back end if we have more time or as we're addressing any questions and answers, but we do appreciate your participation to this point. So please take a moment to just recall any of the yeses that you had in this activity and just give yourself 5 points for each yes. What you also want to think of are, if there are a few or a modest amount of yeses, how can we increase that by 1, 2, or however many, just to further better our chances of being protected from any data breach. So with that, that's the conclusion of part 1. On to part 2. Emmett?
Yeah, so I just would say everybody just kind of jot down whatever your score was there, just so that, you know, you can kind of come back to that. And don't feel bad wherever you end up. You know, I kind of joke a little bit, you know, I had some yes, some no. You know, we're going to go through some things today that will hopefully, you know, look to improve everybody's score. And, you know, it'll also be good to kind of, you know, take some of the information that we review this evening and start a plan of action for yourself. You know, if all you do is just have information but don't act on it, you know, just like anything else in life, it's not really going to do much good for you. So, in you know, this section, we're going to talk a lot about just what the new cybersecurity rules are out there, and I think you can really tie that into these three mindsets, which all overlap. And you know, when you kind of you have as much in that middle of the Venn diagram as possible, that's where that score could really, you know, get up to the 100% on that last little exam that we did. So the three mindsets are security, omniscience, and mindfulness. Now, I'm not going to throw anybody out there or under the bus, but omniscience means infinite awareness, understanding, and insight. So if anybody wasn't quite sure what that word might be, that's what that is. So we'll talk more about omniscience tonight as well. All right. And, you know, like I said, with these new cybersecurity rules, it's really going to be a group of actions that you can take and that you can apply to your life. And each of these rules will have, you know, some actions that you can act on. Key idea number one, adopting a new level of secrecy can boost your security and your cyber confidence. You know, we all need more secrecy in our lives. That's something that is really, you know, one of the keys to being more secure when we're out there, you know, doing anything on the internet. You know, this involves really keeping your personal and private data private. It's a lot more difficult than, you know, you might think. And one of the biggest things that you can do here is just act as if other folks may have your information already. You know, Mark has shared some of those statistics already that, you know, we see the data breaches going on, you know, day in, day out. There are countless others that, you know, Marcus didn't list at the onset of this, you know, event this evening as well. But this key idea all really starts with your email address. And your email is one of the most important, you know, pieces to what you're doing online. If you think about it, how often do you type in your email address every day? How often do you give somebody your email address? How many different people have your email address? Probably more dangerous than people having your email is how many companies may have your email address, right? And so, you know, the reason why, you know, I bring this up is because your email address is really the key to your digital lives. And so one thing that, you know, you can do to really just improve your security out there is have one email address that you don't give to anybody, but you use only for your financial accounts. Reason being, you know, there's a story that I'll kind of read off here. Robert Siciliano, who is the CEO of IdentityTheftSecurity.com, he explains that it's been said if you own a person's email, you own the person. This means that once your email is hacked, essentially your entire digital life is up for grabs. So even if you've done your due diligence, you have all your passwords that are different, if your email's hacked and it's associated with your other online accounts, the hacker could simply use a reset password and get access to all of your other accounts. So this is something to, you know, be very cognizant of. And kind of in addition to this, you know, just be wary when you do receive any of those reset password links. You know, if you didn't do that, make sure to take action on that, because that might mean that somebody else has your email or has that account, right? And so any time like that would be a good time to reset your email password, reset your bank account passwords, but having a special email address for your financial accounts can be a big help to improving your security online as well. The next rule that we'll go over, this one nobody likes. I don't think there's one person who said, man, I love the two-step verifications, right? Well, the only people who might say that are ones who didn't have it and wish they had had it. This is where, you go to log into, a site, typically, a bank account, or, if you're a Cetera client, you go to log into AdviceWorks, right? AdviceWorks will text you a security code to make sure that you are you. Because even if you put in your email and you put in your correct password, like we talked about, it's still possible that that's not you on the other end. So this two-step verification goes to somewhere other than your email to make sure that the person who's supposed to be logging in is logging in, right? Most sites have this technology. Most sites give you the option of opting out of it. Again, I brought up our client portal, AdviceWorks. If you've logged into AdviceWorks, you can also opt out of the two-step verification. And you certainly can do that. But just know the additional risk that you're running in doing that as well, right? Adding that on, it adds maybe 5-10 seconds at your login time, but can save you hours and hours and hours in the event that something happens that you don't want it to. Key idea number 2, completing certain actions can help you reach financial cyber omniscience and thwart fraud. Not much more explanation needed there, right? But we will kind of go over some of these additional actions. This is one of my favorite ones, and I share this with folks often. I wish that folks would take this advice as often as I share this tip, and that's to freeze your credit. All right. When you think about your credit, how often do you actually need your credit to be open or your credit file to be open? The answer there, the only time that you need it to be open is when you go to apply for a credit card, for a car loan, for a bank loan, any of those things. So when your credit is not frozen, anybody can apply for any of those things. When you freeze your credit, you're essentially locking the door for any of those applications. Meaning, if you needed to apply for a car loan and your credit's frozen, nothing would have, the loan application would basically just stop right there. But if it's unfrozen, then obviously that's when it can go through, and we're all familiar with that process. So essentially, walking around without your credit frozen is the same as just keeping the door unlocked at your house all the time, right? And some folks may do that. I know where I grew up, it was in a pretty rural area. We didn't lock our doors all the time. I'll be perfectly honest. Where I live now, our doors are locked unless we're walking in or out of that door. That's what freezing your credit does. It keeps your doors locked unless you're walking in or out of that door. You have to do this through the 3 major credit bureaus out there. So you have to go to each of those sites: Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. It's one process for each of them. And then you create a PIN so that when you go to unlock that door, so to speak, you have to put the PIN in. There's no cost. It's completely free for you to do this. But again, that keeps anybody from applying for credit in your name, keeps you from applying from credit as well, but it keeps other folks from doing it as well. And it's very easy to unfreeze. You just, put your PIN in. The other piece to this is, protect your children. You might think, well, geez, my kid's 10 years old, for instance. What are the chances that, they have been a victim of identity theft? probably a lot higher than you might think, because, you know, hackers or identity thieves out there, they might see a child social security number somehow, you know, falls into their lap, and then they see a completely blank slate, you know, completely, you know, free and clear credit history. And that can be almost a gold mine to them, you know? So you can request a search on your child's social security number at all three of those bureaus, and also freeze their credit as well. Again, if your child's, you know, 10 years old, how many credit cards do they need? Probably not any, right? So that's another thing that you can do. We did get one question here, Marcus. Do we want to take that now, or?
Yeah, we can take that now. We can take a quick pause. So the question came from one of our viewers. Is it effective if I were to change my email now for just financial accounts? Maybe you want to shed any light on that?
Yeah, I think, you know, that would be a perfectly fine way to go about it. You know, I know when I first set up like my bank accounts and all of that, I used my same email address that I use for pretty much, you know, just about everything else out there. So at this point, if I were to kind of, you know, secure my identity out there a little bit and create a new email address for my bank accounts, for my financial accounts, that would, you know, be a perfectly fine way to say, okay, moving forward, you know, I'm now more secure. And that obviously will then help, you know, because if somebody finds my regular email address that, you know, maybe was on, you know, a resume when I was in college or something along those lines, that's not going to be tied to any of my bank accounts now at this point.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off of
great question.
That story is very impactful too, because, you know, we read a story as we were reviewing this presentation of a close friend. Thankfully, it wasn't anybody that was out really seeking information, but there was a story where a professional hacker showed someone how they were able to hack their information through knowing their email address. And as Emmett said before, think of how often you use your email address for many different things. Whether it's for social media, I can easily say for me, the reason I would absolutely do it, why I'm going to do it, is because, you know, my email address is connected to many different things. You know, I do have a spam email address where all the little reward points and Chick-fil-A rewards and all that stuff go, because I really don't care about those. But when you think about, again, just mixing different accounts to one email address, if one account were to be hacked and they had access through your email to that one account, what else is that account linked to? So I could see, you know, reasonable sense why it makes, you know, where it makes sense to have a separate, complete email just for the things that are very secure for your financial accounts.
Mm-hmm.
We have another question. If I freeze my credit, how long will it take to unlock it? Is it immediate with a PIN, or is there a wait period?
It's pretty much immediate with the PIN. You do have to just go to each of those three places again. And it is, you know, it's most effective to freeze it at all three places. If you only freeze it at one or two of the credit bureaus, you know, that might make it a little bit more secure, but yeah, really you want to freeze it at all three of the credit bureaus. And then, you know, you just go back to their websites and you go to the unfreeze area, you know, and go through the process there. And then it's pretty much immediate from that point, I believe.
And again, stressing the importance as to why that is. Again, applying for a new line of credit, walking into a bank is something a little bit different, but just imagine how easy it is to apply for a credit card. You know, so often do I get credit card offers about new APRs, new purchases, and of course, with that offer, there's an application. And the application does not require much, just my name, address, email address, and social security number, which if, you know, somebody really were looking to hack that information, all the hardest thing may be getting my social security number, but a lot of information is at this point public. So my safety feature, and whenever I get those offers, is I shred the application. You know, I don't even give it a chance to throw it away in the mail for somebody to possibly get it out the mail. You know, I shred that document because I don't want that application ever being completed. So yeah, that extra security feature of adding a PIN to freeze your credit, that's a real, I love that analogy, as you said. It's like locking the door. You know, no one comes in or out unless, you know, you use the key. So great analogy. And thank you for the question.
Yeah. And
we're going to keep
the other thing with those, with those with those, you know, offers that you get in the mail markets, those, a lot of them come with like a special offer number, which is actually unique to you as well. So I think it is very important to shred that versus, you know, just putting it in putting it in the trash where anybody can get a hold of it. And, you know, another thing that you can do when you go through that credit freeze process, you can opt out of those offers being mailed to you as well. I actually did that, I don't know, a year ago or so, and the amount of mail that I get is so much less now. So that's pretty good thing to do as well. But, all right. So key idea number 3, achieving a sense of mindfulness when it comes to cybersecurity will allow you to stay alert without becoming fatigued. And really the heart of this is every time you're out there, you know, on your computer, on your phone, on the internet in any way, you want to be mindful, be alert. Fighter pilots have an acronym for this. It's called OODA, observation, orientation, decision, and action. So does protecting yourself online mean that you have to be constantly on, you know, high alert and you know, constantly, you know, thinking about, is this a threat? Is this not a threat? Well, when it becomes a part of your daily routine and you just have that, you know, process of observation, orientation, decision, and action, that can help you to stay mindful without, you know, taking a lot of additional energy out there as well. This next piece kind of, you know, goes along with that 10-second email rule. I'll add this to, you know, things beyond email nowadays as well. I know my family has a few different, I don't even know how many Facebook message groups. And so, you know, one day I get a message, the same message from my dad and all 3 of those groups at the same time. Me, I've got that level of mindfulness where I said, that's obviously, you know, can't be possible. I was actually looking at my phone when this happened. I was like, there's no way that he sent all 3 of these at the same exact instant. That's obviously somebody, you know, kind of hacked in and, you know, wanted to send out a link. And it had something to the effect of, oh no, look who died, with a link to something that I don't know what it was, because I said, that can't be right. Don't click on it. And then I, you know, send that message to all 3 of those groups. Unfortunately, you know, a couple people in those groups did click on it. But, you know, because I, you know, was somewhat aware, I said, you know, look, just go change your password everywhere now. You know, we don't want this to expand any further than where it is. So whether it's an email, whether it's a message, you know, online, a text message, if it looks fishy, don't click it, right? If there's a link in there, generally speaking, don't click it unless you know that that person is actually trying to send you a link to something. Or you can use this acronym, examine message and inspect link. If that helps you, examine message and inspect link. So in examining the message, you know, look at the subject line. You know, does the subject line of the email make sense? You know, look at who the sender is. You know, a lot of times, especially in like office settings or to your work email, you may get an email that's, you know, basically your boss's name, but a letter or 2 off, and then basically your company name, but a letter or 2 off. So it's very easy for you to think that that came from your boss and that you need to, you know, click this or, you know, send this money, wire this money to XYZ place. You would think that that wouldn't happen, but there are times when hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars go out of companies' hands because, you know, of a sender issue like that, and somebody sending money thinking they're acting on a boss's request, but really it's from some random person out there, you know, on the internet. So just make sure that everything looks right. Generally speaking, if there's really bad grammar, then it's probably not going to be, well, I shouldn't say it's probably not going to be, then it might, raise a red flag as well. But, you know the folks that you email with better than I do. Some of them might have bad grammar as well. So inspect the link. A lot of phishers will send spoof links. So hover your mouse over the link or over the URL to make sure that it's the true link. And basically, when you hover over that, it'll kind of pop up and show what web page it would be taking you to. That matches up. Just say it's google.com. The link says google.com, and then, you hover over and it goes to google.com. Okay, well, you can easily, trust that type of thing. So those are the main things that, I would say. In addition to that, whenever you get one of those, phishing emails or something that you feel suspicious about, I would say the best thing is to do is just delete it, right? No need to kind of keep that, on your system. If you feel like it might be from your boss or, from a loved one, maybe go ask them, hey, did you send this to me? But, beyond that, just get it out of there and move on. It happens multiple times a day. So, Marcus, I will pass it back to you.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll tell you that that might be one of the favorite parts that I have in terms of security or mindfulness and awareness is really reading through emails, doing that test of sender, body of the message, the hyperlink. I get very nervous because, quick fingers, sometimes I can click one or trying to hover it over, you can accidentally click. So absolutely be careful. But yes, please do pay close attention to the spelling of the link, making sure the links are matched. But also, ask yourself, is this link really, is it a valid link? Is it a secure link? Because it could be sending you to something that you don't want to click. So part 3 is take action. So we have this pledge, right? We have a pledge and we're not going to force you to sign it. Again, we're not the cybersecurity experts, but we do want to, again, help bridge the gap to increase your security. So we do challenge you to take 3 steps of action, whether it is in the area of mindfulness, omniscience, or security and privacy. We do want you to take action. I know my action items, absolutely going to do the credit freeze. I look forward to going through that process so I can stop getting these extra mailings about credit cards. I've already taken a step for me to 2-pin authentication for social media. I shared that with Emmett. I've seen plenty of my friends, close personal friends, be hacked on Instagram, Facebook. So it doesn't only come through email. It can absolutely go through social media as well. So you can add a 2-pin authentication for your social media website. And third, I'm absolutely going to create that separate email for financial accounts. So I'm excited to get the work done on that. That way I'm not concerned about somebody hacking my security. But we do want to, give you 3 steps or 3 calls to action. So with that, if you are taking the pledge, feel free to let us know. If you need us for accountability partners as your advisors, we're more than happy to play that role. But as we come to a conclusion, we do want to address any final questions that you have from our conversation this afternoon. So again, please use that Q&A feature. All right. Just give it another minute or 2 as those come in. If there are no further questions, we do thank you for your participation this afternoon. I'm going to take this pledge. Thank you for this. Love it. Love to see the commitment. You're more than welcome. But we do thank you for joining us this afternoon. If there's any request that you have from us, is to share the message, share the word, right? Allow us to, 1, receive any feedback that you have. If there's any feedback that you have, that things that we can do better, topics that you would like for us to discuss, please let us know. We always invite guests as well, so feel free to invite a guest to the next experience, so be on the lookout for that. And we have one other question, comment. Man, this is a great one. What about remembering all the passwords? I heard of an app or something to keep all the passwords. Emmett, do you have any anything to share on that?
Yes. So passwords, obviously, you don't want to use something generic, password 1, password 2. And, a lot of sites have different requirements. You have to have uppercase, lowercase, number, letter. So it can get very difficult to remember all of that. The old fashioned, way of doing this is having a password book. Talking to somebody earlier today, she said I think she said she's on like the 5th page of her password book. So obviously those can get pretty, full pretty quickly. And, they have to change regularly as well. There is some technology out there that, you can basically subscribe to, whether it's something that is a free service or something that you can pay for. Generally speaking, I would say if you're paying for a service like that, it should be more secure and should be better, but I wouldn't say that that's necessarily always the case. I can't really give like an endorsement for a specific one, but I know there are some that give, like they'll generate a password for you for any site that you have. And then when you go to log back into that site and it says, hey, it's time for you to update your password, you just hit generate password again, and it'll generate it again, and you save it to your account. So, then you don't have to, remember the password. It's saved right there. You go to that site, password populates along with your hopefully special secret email address for your financial account, and then you go from there. So yes, I would say that, can certainly be a good investment of time and or, financial resources to help keep you secure as well. So great question. Thank you so much for that, Kathy.
That was the last question. We do have another comment. Thank you for this. I will be taking the pledge and very informative. So love to see those comments and those commitments. So again, we thank you for being a part of this experience. And again, be on the lookout for our next event and our next activity. Can't wait.